how many lakes around Western Europe have been filled with people throwing in weapons and shields and that sort of thing as kind of sacrifices. What are they sacrificing to? Presumably to some kind of aquatic deity or spirit. And that aquatic deity or spirit lives in the dark water that you can't see. They live in another realm.
The hanging bandits on the road, telling stories hardly told, rarely proven. Seeking cryptid folklore myths, no better gang to come along with. Even if it's all a lie, we'll be in the car to find out why. Yetis, werewolves, ghosts and ghouls, get the cryptid hunting tools. River monsters, trolls, big cats, hoping we don't get attacked. To the seashore or woodland floor, if there's theories to explore, more ridiculous the better. Walking down remote country tracks, hoping that we make it back 100% human, bandits on the road.
Foggy morning on the 29th of December in the liminal space between Christmas and New Year's. We're now on a mission to hunt for the Loch Ness Monster.
It's gonna be a long drive, but you just gotta suck it up. Let's go. Okay, let's do that thing again. That's step one, conquered. Now it's just the whole country to go.
I'm not saying this trip we're going to find Nessie, but I think there's going to be something on the path we're on, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not about me going to find the thing, it's about me going and being open enough to have the experience of whatever comes along.
If it's real, then it's in our world. And we might need to adjust our paradigm to take account of that thing that we didn't understand before. For a long time, pilots reported vertical lightning coming up from the clouds. And scientists dismissed this. Mm-hmm. And then NASA, intrigued by this, ran a flight, a very high flight above the clouds. And they filmed, guess what? Lightning coming up from the clouds. So suddenly the paradigm had shifted.
Green, green, rocky road, you promenade in green.
As I learned from Geoff's book, some people believe that the Loch Ness Monster is actually an evil entity. Exorcisms have been performed on the loch to try and cast out the demonic Loch Ness Monster.
The exorcism involved marking a cross on a map over the loch and going to each of the points on the loch on the cross on the shore, performing a ritual, and then going out into a boat to the very center of the cross and performing the exorcism ritual. Each of the participants had some kind of psychic blowback. There was something going on. I suspect this was psychological, but all the participants felt that there was a very heavy atmosphere as they were going around doing it, that something was building up. And this is like horror film stuff, isn't it?
It could actually be quite unsafe hunting down the Loch Ness Monster when it is potentially so evil. And that tower's famous, sort of.
Another thing we learned from Ted Danson's iconic film Loch Ness was that, you know, there was actually two Nessies, a male and a female, and at the end of the film they have a baby. So we might not be seeing the same generation that was depicted in the film Loch Ness. So we've got to be open-minded to like different sizes, from different sort of like genes that have been passed down.
You know that there wasn't a documentary.
What? Sorry, what?
I must say that Geoff pretty much convinced me that the chances of Loch Ness Monster existing are very minimal. The points that he made that really sold me were, so that I think he was saying there's not enough biomass, there's not that much life in the loch to support some sort of large prehistoric plesiosaur.
Every living creature needs nutrition. That's just the rule of biology. And the larger you are, the more food you need. Just think how much elephant to eat or whale. Now, Loch Ness, as I mentioned before, is very dark. There's no photosynthesis under the water. It's very, very, very cold. And it has what is known as a very low biomass. That means there's not much to eat. Really, there's not much to eat. And there's certainly not enough to sustain a large animal.
Of course, that doesn't speak to ghost dinosaur as a possibility, because ghost dinosaurs may simply eat ghost sturgeon.
The third possibility is that the creature is not biological at all, that it's supernatural. You know, and if it's supernatural, you can just throw science out the window. Maybe it's from a parallel universe. Maybe it's a time slip. Maybe it's from the deep past.
We've crossed the Scottish border now. We've just passed our first yellow snow warning. No, not yellow. Our yellow warning for snow, to be clear. Yeah, so we've just passed our first snow warning. Usually the weather signs in Scotland are pretty on point, so maybe we're going to get some snow, and maybe snow will impact our ability to hunt for Nessie. But we're going to persevere, we're going to push through, and we're going to find this loch creature.
Tomorrow, we're getting up nice and early and sort of hitting the road again like we've done today. Straight up to Loch Ness in the morning. Serious investigations and science. We'll get our sandwich bags for any evidence as well. We need to get that from the co-op, guys.
These days, certain disciplines have advanced so rapidly. Biochemistry, microbiology, paleobotany, zoo archaeology, all of these things, that even a small sample of material can now produce fantastic results. What I'm looking for from present-day science is the quest for Nessie poo. Yes. That's what we need. We need Nessie poo to be sampled to give DNA. That's what.
So is that what you'd like the bandits to do for you? Any identity?
We are at the Falls of Dakar, looking amazing. Usually in summer you can walk along all these rocks around the edge, but in winter it's just quite insane. It's a rainy day, hazy day, but nice and warm. We're just walking the dogs, and then we'll be off driving through Glencoe up to Loch Ness to finally hunt the monster. Visibility is not perfect, but I think we can make do.
We'll be getting there at 2, which is going to give us realistically about an hour of actual light. Yeah. Maybe an hour and a half.
For that liminal time.
It would be a liminal time.
Transition between light and dark.
Yeah.
Would Geoff approve of that?
I think Geoff would approve of that.
Liminality is an absolutely crucial idea. We're all familiar with the idea of a portal. Yeah, a portal between worlds is a liminal portal, is a liminal thing. Some of the obvious places is the area between low and high tide, where land gives way to water, particularly if it's a lake.
Like the river's right next to us, like about a half foot away from the road.
The more moisture we get on the roads, the more puddles that can form in the glens and valleys. We might not make it. We might have to make some sort of decisions to be like, that is too big a risk, that might flood the engine. We need to turn back. Wow, that's just a marshland.
Oh, yeah. No, we don't think we should go through there. Should I go out and see how deep it is?
Kelly has trekked way back behind me to see if we can actually pass on this road. It's not looking great, I would say.
It's not looking great. It's pretty nice to turn around here as well.
Just waiting to see what the news is from Kelly. Here we go.
Up the road here,
Yeah.
we've got to go left.
Yeah.
Left, Kelly.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah. No, and I just looked at where that is, and that is like there. So and it's like here.
No, we're not
Yeah.
doing it. Let's drive on. Let's turn around and take a slow.
How are you going to turn around now?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm going to reverse a lot first.
We're reversing down the like 3-mile long single track road. Is it possible that the monster itself is trying to stop us
Through telekinesis.
through telekinesis or some other sort of weather-based method to try and discourage our investigation, knowing that the Hanging Bandits are the prime crypto investigators in the country. That isn't a sound it was making before, yeah.
Oh, are you alright?
There's a dodgy scratchy noise coming from the car. It's just a stick. Thankfully it's just a stick. Back into the wild with you.
And we've decided to persevere. We're not going down any more single track roads if we can avoid it, and we're going to stick to A roads and see how far we can make it. Can we make it to Loch Ness before dark?
It's clearing up ahead, and I'm wondering if the Highland gods have just thrown our first challenge, basically thrown us our first challenge. It was the stupid way to go, taking the small B road that's literally sit alongside the overflowing river. So we're going to get back to the main roads, we're going to see what they're saying, and hopefully, if the Highland gods are proud of us that we've, chosen the sensible path, they might be kinder for the rest of the journey. ETA to Loch Ness now is around 2:30. Still could be fraught with dangers on the way. We'll have to stop and assess as we go. But back on track, feeling less nervous.
Hamish is loving it. Very chill. I reckon the Loch Ness Monster probably, winters in Loch Ness, nice big loch, quiet around winter time, and then when summer rolls around you get all the tourists. I reckon it moves out, goes maybe Loch Marie, somewhere like that, somewhere a bit more relaxed. We're filling up at one of the classic Highland stop-off points, which is called the Green Welly Stop. Anyone who's travelled sort of the north of Scotland probably will have come past this place at some point. It's a hub of petrol, food, tourist hat, toilets, all the stuff you need.
The engine might be flooded again.
Alex and Kelly are literally sort of bending over trying to soak up whatever liquid has got into the engine compartment. There's, as you can see out the back, we're also creating a massive sort of road nuisance. The Scottish people are so lovely, they do always give you a help if you're in need.
It's a waiting game for now. Just when we thought we were getting going.
The Highland gods,
So cruel.
they felt we were being, it was hubris, pure hubris. We come
Too
here.
cocky.
For now we're still just kind of stranded. We're thinking of going for a little walk in a minute.
If the weather's really, really bad, I have to give up and I'll just hitchhike out, and someone stops and they have an interesting story. It's that combination of planning and flexibility. So I always think you have to be just open to what the place has to offer you.
You promenade in green. Tell me who you love.
Still no cryptids or ghosts.
Little Miss Jane, you're back to the wall, don't you stumble.
This is some fairy engineering right there.
How easy to cross, do you think?
For a fairy, well easy.
For a human?
The little butterfly winged Tinkerbell fairies are inventions of the late 19th century and really come into popular culture as a result of the faked Cottingley fairy photographs. Nobody saw cute little winged fairies in the 17th or 18th century. So they're telling stories about invisible fairies, fairies the size of humans, small fairies, gnomes, all kinds of there's an entire taxonomy of fairy types.
So when we get back to the van, we just got to start, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Awesome. We just found ourselves at this hotel that looks pretty abandoned, and of course being intrepid explorers, we couldn't help but come and take a look for ourselves.
Certainly doesn't look available for a drink. I think these rooms are going at reduced rates though. Smash from the inside, bro. It's locked, so only a ghost could do that.
I would say that there are probably 3 stages to any kind of paranormal event. First is the experience itself. A human being experiences something unusual. The second stage is that they then have to communicate it to somebody else. They have to tell them, or they have to write it down. And then the third stage is interpretation. And the interpretation is where things get a bit fluid. To give the obvious example, you see something strange in the sky in the Middle Ages, you go, oh, it's dragons. You see something strange in the sky maybe a couple of centuries later, you go, witches, or, you know, the wild hunt.
This is why it's important to explore, because, you know, the Highland gods, they take away the Loch Ness Monster, but they provide a big haunted hotel for us to explore. Back to the van to see what the score is.
We've given it a good hour with the walk we just did. Guess we just find out if this is working or not, right?
That's the one.
Okay, everyone, hold your breath.
Right, okay. I'll come to you as soon as I come up the road, pal.
Yeah, no worries, man.
I'll go and get my computer and that. It's the best I can do for you, Alex.
Of course, man, that's absolutely fine. Thank you so much, mate. Appreciate it.
No bother, bud. Okay, pal.
See you when you get here, mate.
Alex.
Bye.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.
The AA is here now. Don is also here now, and he's gonna probably give one of us a ride back. And hopefully the car issue is going to be diagnosed, although we're pretty sure it's just water in the fuel tank, basically. On the way in, I said that the Green Welly is an iconic and handy stopping spot for tourists on the road. Now I'm taking that back. I've spent way too long here today, longer than I ever want to spend at the Green Welly, and yeah, it's not great. So the update is, it looks like Harry, the AA man, has managed to at least temporarily fix the vehicle, and I think we're going to head back to Gillen now.
Double rainbow! So it hasn't really stopped raining since we've been here, and the river is just slowly creeping up on these people's houses. Everything that happened yesterday with the rain in the van messed it up, and really it still hasn't stopped raining since all that. So just every journey is fraught with wet danger.
Yeah, especially because if we go through too much rain, we will have to get the AA out again.
Loch Ness is not happening. The van is in too much dire straits to risk that, and the roads are pretty crazy, so instead we're refocusing our efforts on just exploring the local area.
Once you sort of made the decision not to go to Loch Ness and you started to explore, you were at a significant disadvantage, because before you'd set off, you had not got yourself the Guide to Mysterious Perthshire or the Guide to Mysterious Stirlingshire.
We've got Geoff's other book about Jacobites and the supernatural, and we've found a spot not too far from here that's on there, so we're going to explore that. But for now, our next port of call is, do you remember the name of the castle?
Nope.
A castle. A local castle. that I'm gonna put its name as a subtitle, so you know where we're going. We've been given this awesome hand-drawn map, so we're kind of like pirates.
Okay, so yet again, we can't go across the road.
There's so much water everywhere.
That behind Alex there is a hay bale.
It should be filled with animals that aren't ducks in. Nessie could be bloody anywhere. No, we can't even.
When the sun
There's the whole road to get away from the biblical floods.
We're going to go the other side of the bridge we just went over, where it was blocked from the puddle. We're just going to walk it though, so no engine risks. But yeah, we should be able to get to the car, unless this way's flooded as well, which of course is a big possibility. But yes, it's got, what has it got? A beheading pit?
And a
Hanging tree.
And a hanging tree. So, you know, fraught with joys.
It's also a liminal space, right? A hanging tree. It's the liminal space between life and death.
I like that.
It's like the Hanging Bandits.
We're a liminal band between good and bad.
I can show you when it starts.
Let me go first because I've got wellies.
Everything's the same.
Last summer when we played Killing Fest, we were able to walk around all those trees.
I can show you. We were walking through the ruins on a yellow morning with my pockets full and spirits high. There's something stirring, there's something waiting outside. The bricks are bleeding mysteries. A film noir expectation of a meeting by an open fireplace.
Kelly's found another bit of the castle complex. I think it is maybe the mausoleum.
Cattle fields and temples lining my horizons.
One thing we were told about this castle complex is that there's a beheading pit and a hanging tree. Do you really need two different forms of execution?
Beheading was only used for nobles. Common people were hanged. Nobles were beheaded as some sort of marker of their status.
We haven't found the hanging tree, but we're gonna try and scout that out now. It's actually 3:30, which means it's gonna be dark in the next kind of 10 minutes, or certainly getting that way, so we're gonna have to head very, very soon. You can hear the trees creaking, which makes it extra spooky. There it is again. I think you'll probably hear it if I hang around.
It's notoriously difficult to identify the tree that is the hanging tree. So generally, people point to the big tree. The big old tree with strong, stout boughs is the hanging tree. So it might be the hanging tree, but it could be another tree that fell down in a storm a few years ago.
I just went up to the stairs above, and there was a cool tree there, right? And I thought it was a view spot for the castle, which is just in front of me now, there. But the thing with a hanging tree is there doesn't seem to be enough trees with high branches that any look like candidates. And then I looked at the viewing spot.
Hanging trees were typically close by the HQ of the Laird, because that's where the trials would take place. The trial would take place, someone would be found guilty, and rope on the tree, and then they're doing the hempen dance.
Hell yes, Andy. So that is the hanging tree.
Yeah, absolutely.
That may well be the hanging tree, because it's in the right place, certainly. But is it the real tree? There's no archaeological evidence you can find on a hanging tree, but it does seem to be in the right place. The importance of hanging trees is that it reveals something about the makeup of Scotland at the period in a legal sense. Scottish administration is incredibly complicated. It often varies between the lowlands and the highlands. And in the highlands in particular, the landowner, the laird, was God. They had powers of life and death over ordinary people. The Highlands were so far from the centres of lowland power and justice that often rough justice took place in many of these estates owned by these landowners.
I am on my first New Year's Eve mission. Alex and Kelly, it's been quite a hardcore day, so they've decided to stay back with the dogs and make sure no chaos kicks off in our absence. I suppose it's also worth noting as I get to the bottom of the hill that we're passing a location pretty iconic in the Hanging Bandits back catalogue, which is right behind me now, the Mason House, the Freemason House. We did contact the Freemasons to try and get an interview and find out what the story was, but they haven't got back to us yet. Maybe it's because they know that we've got the questions that are going to expose all their secrets.
Eager, exhausted, heavy with free will. Neurosis roaming like so many rough sleepers. Ignored and ignited, left to
So everyone's gathered at Killing Christmas Tree now, and the rain's coming down again. There's dogs, there's traditional lanterns, fireflies, cars, smiley faces, Santas.
this caught in a raindrop rolls down my window, diffusing any shade of honor that has been lost.
Now I'm heading back to Rosie and Donald's, dry off yet again because my feet are soaking, my jeans are soaking, and chill out and prepare myself for one more excursion out in Scotland in 2024. Soon it will be the new year, a new Bandits album, lots of new gigs, hopefully lots of fun, new experiences, new travels.
What do you think, Harvey? It's you!
I mean, could we have done any better for the new year, realistically? Nope. How happy are you guys to be here?
Midnight is a liminal hour. Dawn is a liminal hour. How many pagan and folklore reminiscences take place at dawn? New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. We celebrate that as a holiday, but there's loads of customs and folklore associated with that because it's New Year, because it's a liminal time.
Killing Scotland. It's been probably the best New Year's we could possibly have somehow conceived.
The falls are the largest we'll ever see them.
It's a shame that all the bandits couldn't be here, but it is like this is truly probably going to be one of the most special New Year's and memorable New Year's in the planet, maybe ever. I'm sure we'll have many more good ones, but this is almost definitely going to be in the top 10 for the rest of our lives, I'm sure, and that's beautiful. And thanks to Rosie and Donald for making that possible, and like all of the chain of events that allowed us to meet the people that we met in order to come to Killing. It's really a special thing. But should we start making a slow walk back shortly? I'm sure you can hear everything still going, the New Year's party's still going.
Someone's put a drink on top of the car.
Someone's put a drink on top of the car.
Did you see the drink? The drink is being carried away from...
This morning we woke up to snow-capped mountains. Crazy to be able to see how the temperature changes with the altitude. There's like a straight line where it changes to snow. And right now we're going forwards. It looks like we're driving to this massive snowy mountain. It's epic.
This is so sick. This is the sickest first day of a new year ever.
We've just arrived at Rob Roy's grave. Apparently most of his life has been lost to history. We don't even know what he looked like, but his story was heavily mythologized in the years subsequently.
Depending on which part of his life you're focusing on, cattle rancher, cattle thief, outlaw, rogue, supporter of law and order, Jacobite, man led a very adventurous life. The reason why he's famous is basically down to fiction. 2 novels came out about his life. The first one, not long after he was dead, called Highland Rogue, written by none other than Daniel Defoe, writer of Robinson Crusoe. And then in the early 1800s, the novel Rob Roy came out, and that was written by Walter Scott. Now, it's impossible to underestimate the impact that Walter Scott had on creating the what you might call the Scottish myth.
I really can't describe how incredibly beautiful Scotland's looking in this wintry weather. So what do we think about this New Year walk? Rubbish, yeah. It's lucky Rob Roy's grave is around here, otherwise it'd hardly be worth it.
Now, the reason that there is actually a tourist site, that actually is a named grave for a relatively obscure Highland gentleman, is because of Walter Scott's novel. Because it made Rob Roy so famous, his grave had to be aggrandized. And if you look closely at this grave, the grave slab, it can't be original to him. It's medieval. It's a reused slab. He was a real person. He did apparently do many of the things, especially if you look at the Daniel Defoe novel, which is closer to the time. His impact is really in the world of legend.
This way forever make a burden of the passage of time. Watching the chimneys and the pity that he breed in the uniform rows of red brick streets. When you step...
Got a friendship room at the back, look.
Elves, fairies,
Fawns.
elves, fawns and fairies.
What even is a fawn?
Walker between worlds, yeah, that does sound like our bag.
Yeah, that's right, Riley. The friendship room always offers.
Oh wait, here's about Robert Kirk.
On his father's death, that same year, Kirk returns to Aberfoyle, and there he completed his last and strangest work, The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fawns and Fairies. Here we go. He is supposed to have died in Aberfoyle in 1692, but some say that his grave there is empty. The majority of his parishioners believe that he has been spirited away by the little people to live with them inside the fairy hills. Don.
Yeah, and you know what? Geoff Holder has a lot about second sight in the Jacobite supernatural book as well. At least we've made Geoff proud. But
I hope so.
I hope so.
Robert Kirk is, without doubt, one of the most extraordinary individuals in British magical history. One of the great things that he did was he translated the Bible into Scots Gaelic. He was sent to London to oversee the production of the Bible. And whilst he was there, he made a point of every Sunday going to see 3 different sermons in 3 different churches of 3 different denominations. But this is the 17th century. This was a time when intolerance of other people's opinions and beliefs was a standard practice. Robert Kirk goes to London and he just goes to all these different churches, no matter what their denomination is, because he's curious and he's tolerant. But then comes the work, The Secret Commonwealth. When he was at Balquhidder, he listened to the stories of his parishioners. He was bilingual, he spoke English and Gaelic, and all these stories would have been told to him in Gaelic. And these are the stories of the fairies. Okay, now, this is not folklore. This is belief. These people lived with the fairies all around them. They knew what the fairies did. They had all these stories about the fairies. The book is also concerns ghosts, sprites, second sight. There's a whole bunch of other stuff.
Let your body absorb the blow.
Very serendipitous to find the, a little homage to an author of ancient cryptid material. The landscape absolutely lends itself to stories, myths, to the formation of narrative.
This isn't my idea, this is Terry Pratchett's idea, actually, which is that we should be called Pan-Narrans, the storytelling ape. And that's our default position. The brain is going, okay, it's not going to eat me, I'm not under danger, I can't make any advantage of it, let's tell a story.
Shoulder to shoulder, the underground where the undead rise, heavy limbs and weary minds. Austerity hits the satellite towns while most of the people sleep, as the street sweepers brush got darker.
We're going to try and go up a smallish hillside mountain tomorrow. I'd like to try and get into where the snow's settling, so we'll see how that goes. See if Nessie haunts our plans again. But overall, lovely day, really lovely day, and lovely to be spending some more time with Rosie and Donald as well. So we had a lovely chill night last night, Rosie and Don's, did a few films, wrote a few songs. Plan for today is to check out the yew, the oldest tree in the UK. If we can, we're going to go up to Glen Lyon, but it could be pretty icy and sketchy up there, and we've already done enough roads where we have been silly, so we're not going to push it. But there should be Fion's Rock, which is apparently a rock split by a great giant with a very wise thumb. But really, just an amazing coincidence that where we've come to stay with the amazing Rosie and Donald, due to our failures of Loch Ness, this area has proven to be just absolutely insanely rich in folklore and mythology, really.
Yeah, we've done well for the
It's been incredibly awesome. So yeah, Loch Lomond and the Trossachs, Killin, and just outside Loch Tay. Wonderful area to come and explore, and stumbling on things all over the place. No drama today though, we're going to be sensible.
There's so many folkloric beliefs associated with the Lich Gate at the entrance to the churchyard and to the church door and porch itself. And there's also the idea, very, very common, that the churchyard area forms a form of sanctuary.
Apparently it was so wide at some point it was a bit of a tradition to ride your horse or ride your carriage through here. Is that good luck? Yew trees also can self-root themselves with a branch. So if a branch decides to go underground, it can then turn into roots and it can grow a second tree.
That's pretty awesome. Is that what's happened here? Because there are kind of two trees here, it looks
Probably has happened here a little bit, but it's also notorious that yew trees, when they get to a certain age, the middle core kind of rots out, which they can encourage it to then spread out. Loads of people think they're dying, but they're just cracking on.
Under the dark veil of needles are two relic trunks of a huge ancient yew.
The Fortingall yew is so ancient, definitely ancient, that it predates the church that's there by at least 2,500 years, probably more. Because the yew was regarded with reverence by certain pagan peoples, was the church planted at a yew because the yew was in somehow revered? Or was that just coincidence because they liked a nice bit of yew wood, which turns out to be very handy when you're making stuff? Maybe the economic reason is more important than the religious reason. And so ultimately they remain a mystery, which, I think is quite appropriate for something that can live that long.
2 minutes up Glen Lyon and we've already got a problem puddle. Oh, it's definitely not the shallowest puddle. can you watch the underside of the van? If it's like completely submerged up to the door, just tell me to stop straight away.
Great driving. We've made it through the first major obstacle of today's journey, a puddle. We're in Glen Lyon now, walking through this incredible valley, heading toward
Fion's Rock.
Fion's Rock.
The legend of Fion, the folklore of Fion, is also in Irish culture as well, and supposedly he laid the way from the Giant's Causeway to Scotland because he didn't want to get his feet wet.
Gaelic names are imprinted on the landscape and their origins are Irish. Finn, or Fingal, is an Irish giant who's all over the Highlands. I mean, the guy just never rested. Honestly, he's poking his hole in here, making a cave and building this and knocking this down and throwing a stone at this other giant. And one of the things that he allegedly did was that he took what's called the split stone and he cut it in half, because he's a giant and he can do these kind of things. And at the same time, the stone is called the praying hands of Mary. So you have two traditions overlaying each other, which is that one is the pagan Dark Age tradition of an Irish giant, and the other you have the Catholic tradition of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
We just passed a family that are coming down from the rock. Told us it's about 20 minutes uphill. It's such a beautiful valley. So glad we found it. Should be there very soon. Snow is falling all around me. Children playing. Having fun. Apparently we should be able to see the rocks sticking up somewhere. Go through this gate. The old abandoned farm hut that you come and see on your right hand side as you go up. Hamish enjoying a bit of snow. Not long to go now. Fion's Rock should be up on our right hand side. In fact, I can see it from here. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Sticking up over the hillside. What a lovely sight. That's good. I'm literally nearly there.
We made it to Fion's Rock on the last day of our trip, also known as the Praying Hands of Mary. It's the result of a giant called Fion shooting a bow and arrow that struck the rock and split it down the middle.
Down from Fion's Rock now, walking back along the lovely country track. We met a couple up by Fion's Rock and they were saying how that rock isn't on any OS maps or any maps of the area. I mean, we found it because of the mythology of it all. But I think other people are finding it from like photo exhibitions and places like that. Now, there's a castle further down the road and there's a giant coming up to that castle being like, look, don't shoot, I can help you.
Yep.
Come watch my bow and arrow majesty.
Check this.
Check this shot out. First time. Oh, bang! So something tells me that the people that make the OS maps are all about the science.
And not about the good stories.
Not about the mythology.
That's why it's important the hanging bandits come down and document.
We need to make a map. We'll
The hanging bandits
sort of map out for people,
cryptid and folklore map. That's actually a brilliant idea. I bet it'll sell better than CDs.
Took a spicy route there, man.
And we're nearly back.
Yeah.
Where are we going now?
So we could try, if we're going back down the valley, because we had a bit of snow, so I'm a bit worried about going further up the valley and over the glen back to Killin. So I think we go back the way we came. We could try and look out for that castle again.
Yeah.
Have a little 10-minute peruse around another abandoned castle.
It looks like a face though, look. It looks like an arm.
Wow, it's completely overgrown though. Good views of the valley.
Huh?
This is cool, like how old this looks.
Yeah. You can go. What do you think?
It's a lovely little spot. There's some amazing examples of Scotch pine trees here. Probably some of the nicest ones I've seen. But as a dwelling, it does feel a lot more intimate than a castle or something like that. I'm wondering if we walk back along the top of this ridge here, we'll find something else as well, and then head down to the back. Just been to try and find the settlement ruins, but it seems like absolutely nothing is there. So now we're just making our way back down to the road. We're just coming to a mad shooting reserve. Snow started coming down. We just met the local farmer.
He's a little bit grumpy. He's English.
I think he was like wondering why we were here though.
But he just thinks
They like to sort of make sure you're not causing problem with their livestock and stuff, which is fair enough. It's their livelihood.
It really was surreal walking towards him.
He just stood there.
He is probably grumpy because he's cash poor, asset rich.
It is our morning of departure. Another beautiful day killing. Lovely night last night, partying with the guys. But sadly all the good things must come to an end.
We are heading to the Fairy Glen, one of the famous sites associated with Robert Kirk, who was interested in fairies and folklore.
I believe this is where his soul is. After he discovered and told people about the fairy folk, they imprisoned his soul here.
Pretty dark, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I actually was like, are the fairies good or evil? And apparently there's a bit of both. It's like humans.
Then there's the story. Robert Kirk's soul is trapped in the tree. He was taken by the fairies as punishment for revealing their secrets. Now, the story, the fairy hill, the fairy tree, all of that, I have to quote something I wrote in the Guide to Mysterious Stirlingshire. The tale is much loved by fairy fanciers, new agers, casual visitors, children, and the tourist industry. So I will say this as gently as I can. It's a fib, a fiction, an invention, a matey-uppy story, a big fat fairy lie. In around about 1806, a local reverend, Patrick Graham, wrote a guidebook to the area, and it sold modestly well. And then, 4 years later, Walter Scott wrote a book called The Lady of the Lake, which has got, fairies and spirits and ghosts, and as a consequence, large numbers of well-heeled tourists invaded the area looking for the locations in The Lady of the Lake. So Patrick Graham, being a canny soul, came up with a second edition of his guidebook in which he showed them where all the parts in Lady of the Lake could be viewed, and he added the story that Robert Kirk was taken by the fairies. Nobody can prove that Patrick Graham made up this story, but it didn't exist before. And this is well over a century. It's 120 years after Robert Kirk died. And Robert Kirk had a lot of correspondence. And after his death, there were lots of people writing to each other. None of them mentioned this story.
Do you think this is Robert Kirk's tree?
If you read Patrick Graham's description of where Robert Kirk was taken by the fairies, Doon Hill with the fairy tree is in the wrong direction. And if you go to that opposite direction, you will find a hill where very few people go with a small number of mounds. Guess what? They look like fairy mounds. And that is probably the place that Patrick Graham specified as the location where Robert Kirk was taken by the fairies. But somehow, and it's something to do with the tree is very large, it's very tall, and it's the only conifer in a deciduous woodland. So from a distance, it stands out. That has become the fairy tree.
It's got a nice calm energy about it. No evidence of like actual fairies around, but I think probably at the bad time for them, right?
Cold, hibernating.
Yeah. But hopefully they've got a nice winter store. It seems like this would be a good woodlands to sort of store some goods to kind of survive the winter as fairies.
So one of the things people do around here is they leave little offerings for the fairies. You've got coins, love hearts, feathers, but particularly, see if I can find one here, people are leaving little coins lodged in the bark. And what the tree's going to do is it's going to either grow to consume the coin and incorporate it into its structure, or the bark will grow and reject the coin, pushing the coin back out and onto the ground. I feel like if the tree accepts your coins, should we see if we got a coin?
I've got £1.
So let's see if we can find the...
Great. How much are we leaving?
10 pence, is that
10 pence is great.
Like good for a fairy, right?
I think it's great.
There we go.
I have to spank your asses over that. Trees, ritual litter. Volunteers from the local community turn up and they have to bang out all the trash. Trees, living things, do not need heavy metals. So next time you go back, take it out.
We went to the wrong mound and we disrespectfully littered, but with the best intentions.
Yes, of course.
And we were lied to by tourism.
Yes, that's right. Blame it on the local tourist industry. There you go.
Next time we go, and we will go again, we'll do a little bit of litter picking. We're on our way out of the Fairy Glen now, about to get back on the road and head back to England. Always a little bit sad to do so. But I thought I'd leave you with one of my favourite stories from Geoff Holder. Probably not going to tell it that well, which is why you should buy the book. But one night in a Highland village, a local bagpipist and musician is chilling in his house when he gets a knock on the door. At the door are some little strange people. And they say to him, would you bring your bagpipes and come and play for us at a wedding? So he follows the little people, grabs his bagpipe, follows them, and goes to this little fairy mound. And he's playing all night long. All around him, these people are dancing. And it seems like time is kind of going all strange. He's got no strong sense of how long he's been there. When morning comes, he leaves and he gets picked up by an English patrol who say to him, what are you doing out here with your bagpipes and your tartan? This is a period in time when playing bagpipes and wearing tartan is illegal. What's actually happened though, about 100 years has passed. He tries to explain to the English officials, I was playing for these fairies and, I lost all track of time. And the officials, perhaps understandably, do not believe his story about having played for fairies at a fairy wedding. And so he's executed. I don't know if there's anything you can take from that, except that if you get asked to play for a party of fairies, perhaps don't do that. Might be one takeaway. A second takeaway is if the English pick you up, maybe, even if the fairy story is true, maybe don't lead with that. I don't know what a better story would have been, but I'm pretty sure that as far as alibis go, I was with the fairies and they mess with time might not be the best one.
Turn your back on nature.
Your back has to be turned to nature if you're in nature.
Oh yeah, because
It's all around you, isn't it?
bugger.
Well, you could stand with your back to the city.
But then you literally cannot go any further than the fringe of your city.
No, you can walk the perimeter of your city sideways like a crab.
That's why we're all evolving into crabs.
Exactly.
Got as far north as this van and our kind of wardrobes would have allowed us this time.
Probably my favourite site was probably the Split Rock, Fion's Rock. But I just think if we hadn't gone to Rob Roy's grave of Rosie and Donald, we wouldn't have really done any of the stuff that we ended up doing to actually make it into a great trip. So
Yeah.
big shout out to Rosie and Donald for taking us out for that day.
And that's where we found the Robert Kirk little exhibition as well, which led us to the Fairy Glen today for our final stop.
Bro, the friendship room smashed it.
Andy, we've come away with such a deeper friendship and connection. We widened the
Parameters
of cryptid exploration. We've just delved into some, like, the paranormal and Jacobite history. Well, if there's anything that you're seeing and liking, wanting more of, or thinking that reminds me of this thing, which I think they'd find really interesting, and someone needs to look more into that, just leave a comment below.
Yeah. The Bandits will go.
Oh, that's a good rhyme.
It wasn't even sort of prefigured.
That's why I liked it.
Yeah. It's just after that. And the investigation itself, how did you rate this?
The UFO one was better. Research in advance.
Are you saying research in advance because all the tourist signs are complete lies?
No, they're not chicken lies. They are part of the myth making. You should enjoy and celebrate them. Someone in a council office has said, "How are we going to, funnel tourists into this part?" It's part of the ongoing mythification of the Scottish landscape. History being transmuted into myth, being transmuted into popular culture.
If we go to hunt Nessie for a second time, and you're free, would you like to join us?
Scotland's a long way for me.
I'll drive.
It all falls away because we never make it to Loch Ness.
And the second half is trying to make you proud that we found something.
Yes, you did.
And we didn't quite
go forth and
succeed.
multiply, my children. Yeah, you should definitely do an Nessie one.